want him to spend a few minutes to tell you what it was like. And I'd like to have you sit here because we got it all set up with the video and all that with the background on the P47.
Can you introduce him again, Richard? We didn't get it on tape.
Sure.
Can't see the audience.
Can you close that? Can you close the
I
door?
won't accuse anybody.
Would you like me to put that door down?
No.
No?
I would like to introduce you to Alan Sanderson, who flew the P47 Thunderbolts during World War II, 118 missions in Europe, and was part of the 57th Fighter Group with the 12th Air Force. And he actually flew a couple of missions on D-Day, June 6, 1944. So here's his rendition and remembrance of flying the P47 in its heyday.
Well, number one, as I'm sure everybody's aware,
A little louder, Alan. We can't hear you.
I have a famous phrase for that. I speak softly. My wife says she can't hear me. I say I can't hear you, so we don't have any loud arguments.
That's a lesson I'm going to take home.
Do you want to bring Graham closer? That'll work.
Oh, excuse me.
Anyway, everybody in Evansville should be aware of what great part they played, and I'm sure they are after this weekend, in World War II. I was a Virginia boy, Roanoke, Virginia. When I went into service in '42, I didn't know Evansville existed because someone asked me, said, was your plane made in Evansville? I said, I had no idea where it was made and really cared less. As long as it ran, that was the thing. But it is a fine airplane. I checked out in it in Fort Myers, Florida. Pretty brief checkout. We went to school for about 2 days. Studied all the instrument panels, how to start it, and this, that, and the other. And the crew chief went out with us and showed us how to start it. Which brought the wheels up, which took the flaps down, and that, and the other. And I said, take a hop. That was it. So I fell in love with it. It's a great airplane. Very dependable. It would take a beating, bring you back safely. During the service over in Italy, I've seen guys come back from strafing missions. And that cowling, which is big as you see out here, would be stuffed full of wood where they'd gone too low and gone through the tops of trees, and it was just, you couldn't even see the cylinders, but it came back. And seen them come back, and you couldn't see all the windshield, but they're all altered. So to wrap it up, whoop, I know you were knocking your head. To wrap it up, I'd say it was probably the best airplane that they made for World War II. Really. I don't know how much you want to know, but I can give you a brief history. I went to join our group, which is the 57th Fighter Group in North Africa, and we were ready to move at that time into Italy and chase the Desert Fox, Mr. Rommel, up through Italy. And we were the first pilots over there with the P47s. Before that, they were flying P40s. So we got up into Foggia, and that's where we got the P47s. We moved from there back over to Naples, and just barely missed getting wiped out with Vesuvius, because Mount Vesuvius erupted about that time. And we could see the red lava running down the hill. It knocked out where we were bivouacked, where our quarters were, but it didn't get to the base. From there we moved on, did a few missions out of Naples, but basically we moved to Corsica.
Target because of the flak and the railroad tunnel. Can you talk, did you have any missions to the Brenner Pass?
I personally was on one mission that we dived on that, yes. It was pretty flat. we didn't lose anybody.
What were main targets there?
Our main targets, we followed the infantry line. In fact, for a while we had a man that we put on there with the infantry. They called him Rover Joe, and he had a radio, and we'd come up close to where they were, and he'd give us targets, and he'd pinpoint targets for them, and we'd dive bomb straight.
Were you stationed at any air bases further north than Corsica?
When we moved back to Italy, we were up about halfway between Rome and the only thing I can remember on that side was Spezia, which was a place where the Germans had a lot of U-boats.
Oh,
But we were 2/3 of the way up, I guess.
okay, I didn't know. You know, I was in Udine in Italy, and there was a airfield there.
I'm sorry.
Where was it?
I was in Udine, Italy, and there was an Italian air base there. Also, there was one, I forget the one that, no, now I can't think of the name of it, that was further west. But I was just curious how many bases, because by that time, Germany was doing everything they could to get out of Italy.
Oh, yeah.
And so there wasn't probably much point in you moving to another base, I imagine.
Yeah, well, as I said, the Rommel division was moving north as fast as they could.
Yeah.
And of course, the Allies were having a heyday because if we caught them on the move, well, we tore them up pretty good.
Right.
Now, when in Africa with Rommel, were you involved with taking out any tanks?
No.
No.
When I joined the group down there, we were ready to move into Italy. Rommel had already,
Oh, he's been,
he's gone into Italy.
okay.
Did you ever have to use that war emergency power where you injected water and alcohol?
A couple times.
And was it helpful? You could feel the
Oh, yeah.
extra boost?
It's like, well, if you've ever driven a sports car or anything and put it down in low gear and hit the accelerator, it's the same feeling. It kind of sits you down in your seat.
That's a good feeling,
Oh,
right?
yeah. When you need it, it's good. Yeah.
What were the situations that you had where you had to use that power?
A couple I can remember. We were dive bombing and hit ammo dumps, and it would go up right in your face. Of course, the 47 was a great airplane for bending over and going down at a great rate of speed. But then when you pulled out, it had a tendency to mush a little bit, which is okay. You got used to it. But when you went into something like an ammo dump or something like that, you wanted to get out as fast as possible. And you hit that just enough, and it moves you. Really. Big difference.
How long would you fly on average?
Our average mission would run anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Being in Corsica, it was pretty convenient. We could hop across, do our dirty work, and come back.
During World War II, they had this issue of compressibility on some of these fighters, including the P47. How did you address that or overcome? On the dive, they call it compressibility, trying to get out of the dive.
Well, like I said, the only thing that you learn what the plane would do. Because it did have a tendency when it dive, when you pulled out to mush instead of coming back out a lot because of its weight. And like I said, if you got too low, you might mush through some trees or something.
You lost some pilots and planes because of that, didn't
Yes, yes. Not after they learned how much it
you? Yeah.
did.
So what was the top speed you got out of your plane?
Well, I've had it a little over 400. I was on 5.
Ellen, do you remember when you first started flying combat missions, do you remember about how many total hours you had at that point?
Can you count 5? Oh, I'd say maybe 60 hours.
Did you say
Now-
60?
I'm not even sure I had 60.
Now, you get anybody here that flies
Don't put me in combat.
60 hours, 60 hours, I could hardly get to 152 back on the ground.
Still working with crosswinds at that point. How many hours was the flight school?
Well, let's see, we went to primary and we had maybe 15 hours, 15, 20 hours in pre-flight. Not pre-flight, but primary. Then we went to basic and we didn't have too many hours there. Then we got another 25 hours probably in AT-6s. And then they checked us out in P40s. And we had about, I can't remember, 15 to 20 hours in that. Then they sent us to Fort Myers. And we had a couple of days of ground school. And I think I had, I can't remember the exact, but I think I might have had 15 to 20 hours before we went overseas.
How'd you get overseas from?
They shipped the planes.
Boat.
I went over in a boat, 24 Air Force men, Air Corps men, and 600 infantrymen, and we were in the bottom hold of the Liberty ship, and with 600 infantrymen, and they always, with all due respect, they always thought, well, the Air Corps, you know, they're prissy. We don't give them anything good. Excuse me. So we were in the bottom of the hole, right next to where they thawed the meat out to feed everybody. But we took 22 days to go over.
22 days.
What time of year did you go over?
November.
November. That's a lovely time.
Yeah.
Pretty
cold.
rough seas.
We tried to get out on deck, get away from the stench of the meat, but it was kind of cold out there.
Yeah. It was pretty rough sea, I imagine,
Yeah, it
too,
was.
that time of year.
And a lot of people got a little bit airsick
Yeah.
on a boat.
On the boat.
What's the name of the boat?
So did they
I
fly
have
the?
no idea.
I was on Green Links and General Man's.
Really?
Yeah,
Like me, I don't know.
I should have
no
remembered
idea
that.
what
I
went
remember
on.
those.
I really didn't want anything.
Glad to get off.
Excuse me.
What? Were you on the General Man?
General Man's come back from Yokohama,
When was that?
June of '55.
Oh my gosh, I went over from Seattle in 45 on the General Man, and we hit the tail end of a typhoon that rim-wrecked Okinawa, and we were 2 decks below the water line,
Yeah.
and got so bad, we shut the bulkhead, turned the screws, and here we were, you know,
Yeah.
bonk, bonk. Everybody was sick. It wasn't Chanel 95 in the hole. And when they turned the bulkhead screws,
Yep.
then you'd hear those steel plates. Oil can. And honestly, I prayed, Lord, I hope it was a good welder. Because if it would have sprung a leak, that's where we would have been. But we ended up at Nagasaki,
Yeah.
and we couldn't get out because we stripped a main reduction gear. And I asked the sailor, I said, "No, soldier, we take the whole side of the ship out." So my God, you can imagine, I knew a guy who went over. He was a crew chief on 24s over in Europe.
Okay.
That thing, I don't know how many trips it made. Man, oh man.
See, when I came back, my hand got burned up over in Korea, and it was all wrapped up from here to my elbow.
No kidding.
Yep.
Hey, Alan, what was your last mission? Where were you in your last mission?
You know, I don't remember. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Did they fly your airplanes over? Or did they take them on a ship?
We came over on ship.
Ship.
47 wouldn't make it.
Yeah, too far.
Did you ever have any aerial encounters with Germans or Italians?
I didn't. Closest we came when the Germans first got their jets started. We had a couple times they'd go straight up through, just go straight through the fenders and go straight up. Never made an attack or anything, and disappeared. It's the only time I ever saw them. We saw them on the ground, we strafed the ground, on the ground, not in the air.
On R&R or anything like that, did you ever run into any of the Tuskegee Airmen over in Italy?
Into what?
The Tuskegee Airmen, did you ever see any of them over in Italy?
We heard them on the radio. That was the ball. They were good though. They were good. But to hear them on the radio was quite a show.
different language, huh?
Yeah.
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 Any other questions? Because, hey, who's hungry? We got lunch.
I have one more question.
Sure.
What was your most memorable mission out of the 118 or? Do you have one that stands out?
Last one, maybe.
Probably should tell you about the entire piece.
It's a good story.
I like stories.
Before you start, you've all seen the movie about Monument Men recently and the book. I mean, it's very historic in that just a few guys wanted to save all these monuments, and they made it a point. And then I'll let you take it from there.
We were on a mission to northern Italy, and we were right at Pisa, and there's a flak gun right at the base of that thing, and he was really giving us the difference of several flak guns. And they popping all around us, and I said, I called, I said, I'm going down and get that gun. And my wingman says, Sandy, I don't think you should. That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Says you might go down in history. So I turned and didn't go down, but I came awful close.
Wow. So the way I twist this around, he saved the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The monuments man among us. Could have turned out differently. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, we got lunch.